All right. Welcome once again. And those of you online, welcome. If you have a question, we're going to invite you to just send a chat message. Don't seem to be able to turn on your mic. So hopefully, if you have questions, you can communicate them. So last week we finished the 5 powers, and it was a synthesis of practice for a single lifetime. Really powerful way to incorporate all the Buddhist teaching, whatever lineage, into a way of living. And we're beginning a new text here. It's one of the shortest texts. It's the shortest Lam-Rim text written. It's the whole path to awakening in 14 verses. So it packs a lot into these verses. And so, as one might reflect, it probably requires a little bit of commentary. Very pithy, very right on. The inspiration for this particular teaching was my teacher, my first heart teacher, Geshe Gelsen, who's up there, far right to you. He transitioned 11 years ago this month, and some of his parting advice was, of all things, remember these 3 things: renunciation, bodhicitta, and wisdom. It's the path of awakening. And to keep our practice really practical and straightforward. You know, we don't need to get too caught up in sidetrack. Just that our daily life can be our practice, and how we treat each other is our practice. That how we live is our practice. And he really embodied that. So it was in reflecting upon that transition, well, it's time for the 3 principal aspects of the path. This text was written by Lama Tsongkhapa, one of the great adepts of Tibetan Buddhism. He's essentially the founder of the whole Gelug tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, and he actually died in 1419. So the late 1300s until 1419. And wrote vast volumes. I mean, this is someone who studied all the sutras of different traditions, of different lineages. He went away, did long years of retreat. He did practices. People say he was fully enlightened by the time he transitioned. Then he wrote these volumes of text, systematically outlining and putting together a very clear system of how to obtain enlightenment, all the way from how to set up your altar to how to motivate yourself, to everything to meditate on, to awakening. And really just this vast volume. So he had this ability to delineate little details, to give incredible explanations, and then he also had the ability to condense them to 14 verses. Here it is. Here it is. So there's a lot in these few verses. And essentially the 3 principal aspects of the path. Principal meaning essential. Principal meaning this is the essential piece. These 3 pieces will get you there. There's lots of ways to get these 3 pieces. But these are the essential. If you want to be free of suffering, if you want to find full awakening, if you want to achieve Buddhahood, these are the 3 things. And so the first one's renunciation. And the second one's bodhicitta. And the third one is wisdom, the correct view, the nature of existence, the experience of that directly. And so in this context, he's just laying out that in order to really engage in this path, there's no way to fully engage in it without renunciation. And we'll touch on that. And renunciation doesn't mean that I can't enjoy a good meal. As a matter of fact, with some renunciation, you might actually enjoy a good meal in a whole new way. Bodhicitta is this aspiration that no others suffer. That, just with renunciation, I don't want to suffer. I really am renouncing the cause of my suffering. I'm renouncing the delusion that gives rise to all of the problems in my life. Likewise, you're suffering, right? I have mine, you have yours, all beings have theirs. So bodhicitta is this incredible aspiration that I don't want others to suffer. That's the fuel. And then wisdom, basically a direct experience of the nature of reality itself, truth, the way things are. So we're renouncing delusion, the way things are not. Fundamentally, liberation is seeing things as they are. And so what I find truly just grounding about Buddhism is that's pretty much all the Buddha taught. Start seeing yourself as you are. Start interacting in the world more accurately. That the source of our suffering comes from misperception. And there was nothing to believe, and there was nothing other than to seek the truth. What's the truth of things? What's the cause of my suffering? What's the truth of that? And that was the path, was to seek the truth. And so throughout the text, that's basically what's going to be asked of us is, well, let's find out what's the source of my suffering, what's the source of my happiness? Because therein lies the problem. We, as human beings, in our quest to be happy, create a lot of suffering. And in our quest for happiness, we misperceive the source of that happiness, right? It's in people, places, and things. Yeah, how's that working out? Can I have good things and nice people and still be unhappy? Can I be unhappy in a nice house? Can I be unhappy with heated car seats? It can happen, especially if they don't work as quickly as I'd like. And so there's this misperception, a fundamental misperception from our earliest moments that gives rise to, I really like this, it makes me feel good. And I really don't like that, it does not make me feel good. And then the rest of my life is going to be around trying to make this happen and that not happen. And if this happens a lot, I'll be happy a lot. And if I can avoid that a lot, then I'll be happier. And then I'll spend my whole life trying to get this, avoid that. And in that whole process, I'm generating my prison of karmic conditioning that is constantly striving and creating conditions that cannot provide me happiness. So out of misperception, out of misunderstanding, I will start to label people, places, and things as good, likable, pleasurable, terrible, awful, or somewhat in between. Who cares? Kind of neutral. A lot like my 69 green Plymouth Satellite. Kind of like a neutral car, just parked there. Nobody really noticed it, Started though. All the blinkers worked. It was pretty cool. But nobody really noticed it. It was kind of neutral. So then my whole life becomes this idea of everything I experience in the world, I see through the lens of me. Are you something that is pleasurable or not? Are you something that can benefit me or not? Are you something that will give rise to joy in my life or not? And whether it's food, whether it's a person, whether it's a thing, whether it's an activity, my whole life I become the center of my universe. And then I start attributing qualities to these things and phenomena and events. Simply, the people I like, guess what? Are people that have my values and my worldview. Then they're cool. People that don't, well, they're idiots. People that benefit me, I like them. People who don't benefit me, maybe I don't care. I see them as a threat in some way. I really don't like them. And then all of a sudden I've got friends, enemies, and strangers. And those labels become labels, and people become friends, enemies, or strangers. And a stranger can become a friend. We've had friends that become enemies. And we've had some people we didn't like that later we get to like. Those labels change. What we often as humans will forget is that it's not the people, it's how I'm experiencing the people. And so while I keep trying to change everyone else, I'm actually creating the roots of suffering instead of transforming the nature of myself and how I interact with people, places, and things. It's not the people, places, and things. It's my interaction with them, my perception of them, how I engage with them. That's going to have a lot more determinant factor around happiness or suffering. And, we can step back and look at that and go, yeah, okay, I get that. And then go out and do it again and again and again. And it's very much similar to anything. If we've ever had delayed gratification, like I know I shouldn't eat this licorice and stuff, but yeah, I'm doing it anyway. I ought to go work out, but maybe I'm not, or, maybe I shouldn't do this for, I'll feel better, but I do it anyway. However, this happens on a very subtle plane of just how things are, and I don't even think about it. I just do it. I just want to be around people I like. I don't want to be around others. And then I don't really investigate where's the real source of my happiness. It's not the ice cream. Right? It's not the ice cream. It's not the other person. There's an interaction between myself and the other person. There's an interaction between myself and the ice cream. There's an interaction between myself and the event of my car breaking down. And sometimes my car will break down, it's no big deal. Other times my car doesn't break down, I'm just stuck in traffic and I'm pissed off. Car works. I have heated seats. I'm angry. Anger, happiness, frustration, contentment, those are mental and emotional states. They're here, they're not out there. And so the confusion lies in that the cause for this mental and emotional state is out there. Because when I get ice cream, I feel pretty happy sometimes. Stepson made some popcorn last night. It was a happy night. Little pepper on there too with the nutritional yeast. Yeah, quite tasty. But if I eat too much popcorn, it's not so good. Popcorn every day, believe it or not, some people get tired of it. I might need to test that theory for myself, but the idea is that it's not always going to give me joy. If I don't feel good, it's really not going to give me joy. And so, and if I don't have it, then I'm suffering. If I smell it and I don't have it, then I'm really suffering. If I smell it and I don't have it and he takes it upstairs and doesn't share it with me, now I'm resentful. It's pretty inconsiderate, kind of selfish. All of that's a mental, emotional state that before I smelled popcorn, I was fine. Quite content. I was probably even full. Wasn't even hungry till I smelled it. I smelled it. And so in this way of living, we keep wanting to then get what I want, not lose it, keep arranging those things that trigger the pleasurable sensation. But what's the cause of the pleasurable sensation? And this is where it's critical to understand that the cause is a mental and emotional experience. The condition that triggers it is the event. There's a difference between a condition and a cause. And the events that happen are conditions that can give rise to certain mental and emotional states, but the cause of a mental and emotional state has to be a mental and emotional cause. So we may have noticed on a simple way of looking at this that when I have an attitude of gratitude, you know, I can look at something very differently and experience it differently. You know, am I stuck in traffic or am I traffic, right? You know, am I late for somewhere to go? And I have somewhere to go. You know, did I have to walk to work? Well, I can walk. I have legs. Well, what am I paying attention to? The walking, what makes walking terrible? Or someone, I had this guy who told me once, they'd go on these hikes. It was kind of a training, sort of a self-development thing. And they say, yeah, we're going to go for 3 miles, you know, and then 3 miles later, go, oh, we're going to go 2 more. It was like 2 more. And it was just painful. And he said, the next day they'd say, we're going to go for 8 miles. And then they walk 5 miles. It was easy, right? To walk the same distance, same physical effort, but what made 5 miles really long was to think I was only going 3. What made 5 miles really easy was thinking I was going 8. Wow. I used to work for this guy. This guy was a master of people. And we were an auto repair shop. I was an auto mechanic once. Not a good one. But anyway, they paid me to do it. And somebody asked a quote, and he would give this outrageous cost. Oh, that'll be $4,832. And you're like, what? Nah, just kidding. It's only $492. All of a sudden, $492 didn't sound so bad, you know? It's like, get my thing done. We always start with this kind of thing, you know? I don't know if he's just playing or whether it was a psychological ploy, but I did notice that, wow, if you start with that big number, the other number didn't sound so big. Likewise, I was at a meditation. It was outside of Telluride. These people, they still do this. They meet once a week and they sit for about an hour. I think it's 45 minutes or so. 45 minutes to have a little reading. And like one day, you know, somebody wanted to bump it to like an hour. And, you know, they had a vote. Everybody's like, no, 45 minutes. An hour's too much, you know. All got complaining. And they said, okay, 45 minutes. They sit. And, you know, they finish and everybody's like pretty happy. Oh, that was really nice. He goes, yeah, it was an hour. And he's like, what? You know, and so again, we start to understand that the events themselves, you know, are not the cause, right? They're a condition. They're an interdependent experience I'm having. What I'm bringing to that experience has to do more with the cause. So the cause being a mental and emotional state. Anger doesn't come from nowhere. Anger, the cause, the seeds of anger are in my mind stream. And they arise from my sense of justice or how I think should be, or, you know, how I start to surmise whether something should be this way or that way. And then that mind that I see something, whether my car breaks down, if I understand that cars do break down, and I'm fortunate to have a car and many people don't have a car, it's a different mind than the idea that, you know, I'm in a hurry and how unfair it is my car breaks down. Very different mind. It interacts with the same event. And so systematically, our mind, as we're growing and developing, starts to recognize patterns and habits and tendencies in things that give me pleasure and things that don't, and then starts basing a series of conditions for my happiness. right house, right job, right car, career, relationship, things I like to do, blah, blah, blah. And then if all those things happen, then I'll be happy. Except that world doesn't exist anywhere for anyone. How many times have things gone exactly right for you? I have no idea how many wonderful events I've had in my life, or vacations, or compliments, or whatever. Can't even count them. And yet I can still be sitting here thinking, if only this next thing happens. And what if this doesn't happen? And then what happens is the very things that I think will bring me happiness are the source of my suffering. Because the things that I stress and worry about today are all the things that I think will bring me happiness. House, job, car, relationship, vacation, all that. So there's this cycle, this web that I spin, and I don't even notice I'm doing it. It just seems natural, and I talk to my friends about it, and we all do the same thing. We all do the same thing. Something good happens, yeah, that's great, let's go do this. Something terrible, that sucks, yeah, that's no good. And we just do that. And then my life's over. And I don't notice that, did I really want inner peace, well-being, contentment, meaning, purpose in life? What am I bringing to the table? What's the conditioning I'm giving my mind? Am I planting the seeds of contentment, understanding, and wisdom? Or am I constantly reinforcing these misperceptions around the judgments of others and events and people and things, all based on whether or not it makes me feel good or not? So these opening verses that we're going to get to is going to go to exactly that. Renunciation. Let's renounce the delusional thinking that creates my suffering. Let's start focusing on an opportunity to recognize the source of my happiness. It's a good renunciation. Let me renounce delusion. Let me renounce creating the causes of my own suffering. But to get there, we need to know what it is. So there's a very basic, fundamental principle, and it's not just limited to Buddhism. You'll find it in Aristotle, Plato. You'll find it in all the other major religious traditions. People will say it in many ways, in many forms, but it's just fundamentally true, and we could check, see if it's true. Again, anything we share, check it. Is it true or is it not? And that is that the source of all happiness comes from virtuous activity, and the source of all suffering comes from non-virtuous activity. You reap what you sow. Do things you feel good about, you'll feel good about you. Do things you don't feel good about, you'll not feel good about you. That when I do things I don't feel good about, there's going to be some shame. There's going to be some guilt. When I do things I feel good about, I'm going to feel better about who I am. I'm going to be much more flexible and engaged in the world in a healthier way. Karma, cause and effect. Cause and effect. I want inner peace, happiness, and well-being. I don't want to create the cause for it, because, that might be actually like, training my mind and being present and meditating and being nice to my neighbor when I don't want to be. And so cause and effect, the nature of things. What I think, say, and do a lot, I tend to think, say, and do more. It's very simple. A lot of people, kind of make karma this big mystery thing. And there are some bigger, the bigger layers of karma, but some things are pretty simple. If I think, say, and do things a lot, I'll think, say, and do them more. Habits and tendencies. If I complain a lot and you validate that a lot, I'll do that a lot. If I, learn how to drive a stick shift. I'll learn how to drive that, and I won't even have to think about it. I know how to do it. My neural pathways, they get created, the structure of my brain, the things that pleasure, rises, the dopamine that comes up, all of that happens. It's all being shaped. And the thing is that now with science is catching up with Buddhism, they can measure and recognize that, oh, the brain is malleable. Neural pathways change. Old neural pathways can fade away. New ones can grow. My genetics are not a determinant of how I show up, that I can actually, gene expression can be dialed up and down, that everything about me is changing and malleable, and I can consciously affect that. Except I don't, because I'm not noticing any of that. I'm just trying to get some more popcorn. And I hope we have some more at home after this. Yeah. Just saying. And so in this quest to feel good in a moment, I don't really take a look at the trajectory of what I really feel good about. And so the conditioning of my mind on neural pathways, I start living on autopilot. I just start doing and saying things that I do a lot. I start hanging around the people that I'm used to, and we start doing the things that we say are cool or interesting. And then I believe that to be the world that I experience. And all this is on autopilot. Most research shows that we're not aware of what we're doing about half the time we're awake. So that mind's just on autopilot. I'm distracted. And then when I am not distracted, I'm still making choices based on a world that doesn't exist. One in which if I eat right and exercise and get the right job and have a good relationship and all that, I'm going to be happy. And then I'm not. And I have distress, and I have grief, and I have loss, and I have joyful moments that come and go, all of which are transitory, ephemeral. And then when I get a moment of peace, a moment of solitude, I have no idea how to just sit here. It's uncomfortable. My mind says, what are we doing now? Can't we put on some of that music or something? Because I don't know how to just be. Finally got the moment. Wow. Wouldn't it be nice to just relax, have a cup of tea? And then, I need to turn something on. I need to call somebody. The mind doesn't know how to be resting, present, attentive. And so it's in this context that this introduction comes that says, well, what we want to do is renounce all that craziness so that we can actually more accurately engage in our lives and quit creating the suffering and start creating the conditions that give rise to inner peace and well-being and a trained mind and attention and, to actually live in my life, participate in it. And right now we have those opportunities. But we miss them because we wake up and, go through a whole day trying to feel good while creating the cause of my discontent. So it's not very productive, generally. And then when we do feel good for just a bit of time, it's fleeting, and then I strive to get that again. Instead of understanding that those are just momentary experiences, but my real sense of well-being is always there. That's the great sort of wow, is that when my mind is not caught up in all that, my natural state is blissful. My natural state is blissful, luminous, non-conceptual. And we've noticed that when you are really caught up in something and you're not thinking, you feel good. It could be skiing, it could be on a bike, it could be whatever. In an activity where you're just in it and not thinking, it feels good. My body feels good. Things feel good. We're in what's called what they call it, the flow, right? Flow. Feels good. We're like that. And so when I'm not caught up in all that habitual, conceptual thing that drags me around to worry about this, think about that, what about this? And in other words, this well-being's already here. It's always here. I just don't know how to access it because I'm so busy being dragged around from one thing to the next. And I have no idea how to just be comfortable. And so the trainings within Buddhism, there's these three higher trainings, not the three principal, three higher trainings are how to develop this path of awakening is to really develop good ethical behavior that creates good conditioning for more pleasurable experiences. Concentration, so a mind that's not scattered and wandering and being present, engaging in healthy ethical behaviors, which are the seeds of deliciousness and well-being and the way I get to experience things. And then wisdom to see things more accurately. All of that is intertwined with these three principal aspects of the path. So I'm just going to pause there for a moment to see if anyone online or anyone here might have a question or a thought they'd like to share. And if you're online, I'm going to see if maybe you might have to chat, just because for some reason I do not, it doesn't show. Can't see you. I can't even see you, so no hand. I mean, I can see your body. I don't see online right here. You just don't exist in the way that I see you. And so, yeah, it's weird. It shows attendees, the number, but I don't actually get to. Normally you pop up here and then I can. So, okay, hopefully. So I wanted to get into that with a little bit of commentary with sort of the basics. And so fundamentally within Buddhism, the idea is that how I experience you has a lot to do with me, right? I have created the karma to experience you in a particular way. So I'm always having a subjective experience. There's nothing Buddhist about that, right? You are all seeing a different John, right? That's why I said I see Aaron's body, but everybody sees Aaron different than me. And so I'm always going to see you through a lens, and my lens will be, we call it karma, but another way of looking at that is my conditioning, right? How I was raised, the culture I was raised in, whether I was hugged or not hugged, whether I had this issue or that, that's all going to shape how I see you, how I experience you. So I've had this conditioning, and then I have an experience with you or with my food or an activity, and how I experience that, whether I find this fun or not fun, has a lot to do with me and my conditioning. And if we start to understand that if I change my conditioning, I'm going to change my experience. Buddhism calls this karma, habits and tendencies, right? So as I've created karma, have I created karmic imprints that are wholesome, open, that give rise to having a delicious experience? Or have I created karma, that sometimes unpleasant experience? So the experience I'm having when I see you, the experience I'm having when I'm eating, the experience I'm having in an activity is always subjective, and I'm bringing something to it, right? And so the cause, they would say, which is different than the condition, the condition's the event. The cause is here. Did I create the cause, the karmic imprints to experience this in a pleasant way, an unpleasant way, or somewhere in between, a gradient. And so with Buddhism, the basis is this: the more wholesome activities I engage in, more ethical behavior, virtuous activity, I'm creating causes that will give rise to more pleasant experiences of the events and opportunities to be in better conditions to have more of those opportunities, which doesn't translate to making more money or anything. It's not like that. People with very little money can have a pretty wonderful life, and people with a lot of money can be pretty miserable a lot, right? So it's not karmically like that. It's the experience I'm having, right? Like I'm pretty happy with U-Ban coffee. You know, I like U-Ban coffee. I buy that. You might be wincing, going, really? Like, really? Let me buy you some real coffee. But, you know, when I was in India, Nescafe, I was pretty happy with. So I have a pleasant experience with it. Others don't. It's not the thing, it's an interdependent thing. It's the thing and what I'm bringing. And so within Buddhism, we start to understand, and, you know, just the nature of things that we can start testing is that by engaging in more wholesome, virtuous activities, I'm going to create the causes that give rise to these more pleasant mental and emotional experiences of these events, generally. There's always something to play. Hit me with a baseball bat, still gonna hurt, right? Still gonna hurt. But I may not have a massive resentment or trauma mentally and emotionally around it. I might just get my leg fixed. Or it might be a traumatic event that I don't recover from mentally and emotionally because of, you know, how it happened. So understanding this is that there's always play, you know. It's not that I get what I deserve. That's not the way karma works. Because there's all of your karma, right? It's not all me. If you decide to hit me with a bat, it's not that I deserved it. It's, you know, there's a bunch of karma going on there. And so, but in general, I might be able to recover from that experience much quicker, or I might find that I find a lot. For example, I actually enjoy food a lot. Like most food, like all food. Like, it's really hard to find food I don't like, which is kind of problematic if people want to eat with me. Because they'll say, where do you want to go? And I'll go, here. And they'll go, really? You want to go there? And so I'm not a foodie. You know, I love food. And so I can eat a bean burrito every day and be pretty happy with it. And I find that quite joyous. Other people don't. So is the conditioning that have given rise to having a delicious experience in a lot of foods. That's kind of cool, I think. And yet, where am I going with that? I'm going with that. We are getting popcorn, right? Where I'm going with that is that I believe, and this is just me, antidote, is that by engaging, you know, over 35 years ago, starting this sort of process of trying to be healthier, more wholesome than I used to be, which was not wholesome at all. My experience of the world has gotten much better, including food, including the people I'm around. You know, I grew up in a lot of violence, bullets being shot, craziness, and I was, you know, engaged in pretty harmful activities early on in my life, to where I don't live like that at all. And I have a lot of pleasant experience almost all the time. And I didn't change anyone else, right? What I was changing was me. What I was changing was how I engaged in the world and trying to be more helpful. And then everything else starts to change for me, my experience of that. And so that's kind of the way it works, is what Buddha taught. And so we want to investigate that ourselves. Is that the way that works? Because we don't do it because somebody said it. Well, is it true or not true? When I do things I feel good about, do I feel better about me? You know, when I do things I don't feel good, do I not feel so good about me? When I have things to hide, how do I feel? When I have things that are okay, how do I feel? When I help others, what I feel like? So these 10 virtuous activities and 10 non-virtuous activities, they just tend to be like the big top 10, most common. You know, when I lie, hurt others, have sexual misconduct, it creates a lot of pain, right? When I lie, when I harm others with my speech, you know, when I spread gossip and divisive speech, well, it creates a lot of damage. And it also separates, it's creating these discrepancies in my own mind about judgments with others and all that. You know, when I wish ill upon others, when I have jealousy, when I do that, all of those are going to create dissatisfaction and the karmic imprints that come with that. When I protect life, when I am generous, when I am supportive of others, when I engage in healthier sexual conduct with people in healthy and meaningful ways, it's better for me and others. When I, instead of lie, when I actually share authentically, instead of dividing people, what is the kind of speech I can bring that connects us? Can I use my speech wisely? Can I, rather than experiencing jealousy and envy at others, can I rejoice that they're happy and doing well? Why not? Be happy for them. So there's these 10 non-virtuous, which is stealing, killing, sexual misconduct. Those are actions of the body. There's the 4 of the speech, which is lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, and this sort of idle gossip creates karmic imprints that are not going to create pleasant experiences. And then there's ill will. This is of the mind. Ill will, wishing ill upon others. Covetousness, you know, jealousy. And then this last one is what we call wrong view. This is the core, right? Is that my actions don't really have cause and effect. You know, that I can really do unwholesome things and feel good. I mean, you can have a temporary feeling of pleasure, but you're going to have a long-term not feeling good about who you are. And to start to recognize that. So within these 3 principal paths, which apparently we'll get to next week, what's that? Or not. Yeah. Is the opportunity to start to understand the context with which it's being brought. Since there are 14 verses, it's nice to have this context to start to understand that I'm having a subjective experience. And the real gift in that is I just need to change me, not you. Wow. You all are a lot of work. You know, I mean, that's a whole thing trying to change you. But if I just start changing me, all of you change. My experience of you changes, is what happens, my experience. And so therein lies the key is the point that he's making around renunciation is we want to renounce this delusional way of interacting in the world, where if I could just decorate everyone and everything just so I'll be happy, rather than start to understand the real source are the seeds I'm planting in my consciousness, the karma I'm creating as I experience these events. So I think that's a good intro to this teaching. And you have any announcements before we do our dedication?
We have normal events. So our morning meditations happen from 6 until 6:30 Monday through Friday, except Tuesdays. And we have Saturday practice here, silent meditation, as well as Chandrasekhar sadhana practice in the morning. So 2 events on Saturdays. We have a special Losar event that we'll be hosting on the 24th of February. So that'll be
Monday, right?
Yeah, and that'll be a morning practice and evening practice. We'll pop up that day.
I shouldn't have you make announcements.
Why?
Because your voice.
So Monday night at
Monday the 24th. It's at 7 maybe? Yeah. It's on our website. I'll look it up for you before we go.
Yeah. Making him talk when he's got his wife now.
More about the potluck.
Potlucks, yeah. So Monday is Losar, so that's Tibetan New Year. It's one of the most special days of the whole year as far as opportunities to cultivate potentials and a way to really cleanse and purify. So in the morning on Losar, which is Tibetan New Year, we'll do a few prayers to set our intention for the day and set some good karma in motion. And then in the evening, some purification practice and apparently a potluck. Share a meal. Snacks. Okay, snacks. There might be popcorn. We have a big machine. We do, don't we? Yeah. So, don't know how that
In
happened.
person Monday morning or online?
In person and online. Yeah. And then we do have a retreat, a 3-night retreat up at Juanita Hot Springs Ranch. So that you can learn about. So Losar on Monday the 24th, regular events, and then Juanita retreat in April. Okay. So now let's go ahead and take a moment to dedicate the virtue, the merit, the wisdom that we have accumulated here today. Let us dedicate this for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings be free of suffering. May they find their liberation. And may we be able to use the merit and wisdom accumulated here today and throughout our lifetimes to help purify our own minds, to help us recognize our own Buddha nature, that we might be free of suffering and truly be able to benefit all other sentient beings. And may we also dedicate any merit and wisdom we've accumulated here today and throughout our lives to the long life of all spiritual teachers, of all spiritual traditions that are authentically teaching a path of no more suffering. May they live long, may their teachings flourish.